All right, so get this. We're diving deep today into the world of remote viewing.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You know that thing where people say they can see things miles away or even across time?
Right.
We'll be looking at Remote Viewing Secrets, a handbook by Joseph McMoneagle.
Okay.
And he wasn't just some armchair psychic.
Oh,
This guy was a military remote viewer, worked with the U.S. Army's Project Stargate.
wow. The real deal.
Yeah, the real deal. We're talking training techniques, the ethics of it all, even how time factors into remote viewing.
I can't wait.
You're not going to believe some of this stuff.
It's interesting you bring up the military aspect.
Yeah.
McMoneagle really emphasizes that remote viewing is a discipline,
Okay.
almost like a martial art.
Oh, interesting.
He talks about how it requires rigorous training,
Yeah.
mental focus, and a commitment to ethical practices.
So it's not just about mystical powers then.
No, it's about a structured approach to developing and using this ability.
So let's start with the basics.
Okay.
If I said remote viewing to someone on the street, they'd probably picture some crystal ball gazing fortune teller.
Right.
What's the actual definition and how does McMoneagle explain it?
He defines it as the ability to gather information about a target.
Okay.
That could be a person, a place, an object, or even an event
Right.
using psychic means.
Okay.
And the kicker,
What's that?
it doesn't matter how far away the target is, if it's shielded,
Yeah.
or even when it exists.
What?
Time, he argues, isn't a barrier.
Wait, hold on. Time isn't a barrier. So you're saying someone could potentially see into the past or future.
Exactly.
My mind is already doing backflips.
And what's fascinating is that McMoneagle stresses that it's not just about seeing in the traditional sense.
Okay.
It's about accessing information that goes beyond our five senses, tapping into something deeper.
Okay, so if it's not just about vision, what's going on in the mind of a remote viewer?
Yeah.
What's the mental game here?
McMoneagle talks about the importance of achieving the right state of mind. And this isn't some vague mystical concept.
Right.
He breaks it down into concrete elements. Letting go of your ego, embracing continual learning and growth,
Okay.
both spiritually and intellectually.
Right.
And most importantly, eliminating fear.
That makes sense. Fear could definitely cloud your perception,
Exactly.
especially when you're trying to tap into something as subtle as psychic abilities.
Right.
But how do you actually train your mind to do this? Is it like learning to play the piano where you start with scales and slowly work your way up?
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
McMoneagle describes a structured training process with stages,
Okay.
just like martial arts belts.
Right.
You start as a white belt and work your way up, with each stage requiring you to master specific skills and refine your perception.
So what kind of information can someone pick up at those different stages?
Oh, that's interesting.
I'm picturing a white belt viewer getting fuzzy images like a bad TV signal,
Yeah.
while a black belt is getting crystal clear HD.
That's a pretty accurate picture.
Really?
At the beginning, a viewer might only sense the overall feel of a target.
Okay.
McMoneagle calls this a gestalt.
Interesting.
But as they progress, they start picking up on details, emotions, even events.
So it's like focusing a camera lens
Yeah.
from blurry to sharp.
Exactly.
That's incredible. Does everyone learn at the same pace? Or are some people just naturally gifted?
That's where it gets interesting.
Oh, how so?
McMoneagle says that while natural talent plays a role,
Right.
anyone can learn the basics.
Really?
It's like learning a language.
Okay.
Some people are predisposed to picking it up quickly,
Yeah.
but anyone can become fluent with dedication and practice.
I'm really curious about the whole time isn't a barrier thing.
Yeah.
If you could theoretically remote view any point in time, how do you avoid getting overwhelmed by a jumble of past, present, and future all mixed together?
McMoneagle calls that bleed through,
Bleed through.
where information from different time periods can leak into your perception.
Oh, I see.
It's one of the biggest challenges for remote viewers,
Right.
especially when tackling targets far from the present.
I bet.
He describes it as a bit like trying to listen to a radio station with a lot of static.
No.
You have to learn to filter out the noise and focus on the specific signal you're looking for.
So how do you fine-tune your psychic receiver?
It comes down to training and practice.
Okay.
He teaches viewers how to anchor their awareness to a specific point in time,
Right.
using techniques like focusing on a particular sensory detail or visualizing a timeline.
This is mind-boggling stuff. I can only imagine what kind of mental gymnastics these viewers are doing.
It's like any skill.
Yeah.
The more you practice, the more refined your abilities become.
That makes sense.
And what's fascinating is that McMoneagle suggests This isn't just about seeing images in your mind.
Oh, what else is involved?
He talks about how viewers might experience information through feelings.
Okay.
Sounds even small.
Interesting.
It's about tapping into a multi-sensory perception that goes beyond our typical understanding of the five senses.
So it's like they're experiencing the target in a way that's almost more real than being physically present.
That's the sense I get from his descriptions.
Wow.
He talks about how viewers can sometimes feel the emotions of people at the target location.
Oh, wow.
Or even sense the temperature or weather conditions.
That's wild.
It's like being there in a way that transcends physical limitations.
This is definitely more than just picturing something in your head.
Right.
So if remote viewers are tapping into this deeper level of perception, are they always accurate? Is it like having a direct line to the truth?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And McMoneagle is surprisingly candid about the challenges of accuracy.
Oh, really?
He says even the most talented viewers struggle with consistency.
Ah.
And that's where those rigorous protocols come in.
Okay, let's talk about those protocols.
Okay.
You mentioned earlier that McMoneagle compares remote viewing to a martial art. What are the rules of engagement in this psychic arena?
He's adamant that remote viewing, especially when used for research or real-world tasks, needs to be conducted with scientific rigor.
I see.
This means using double-blind procedures.
Okay.
Where neither the viewer nor the people evaluating the results know what the target is beforehand.
So it's like a blind taste test for psychics?
Exactly.
I like that.
It's about eliminating any potential for bias or subconscious influence.
Makes sense.
And McMoneagle goes even further, describing how viewers use specific coordinate systems to avoid any geographical cues that might sway their perception.
Wow. They really go to great lengths to make sure the results are as pure as possible.
They do.
But what about those real-world applications you mentioned? What kind of tasks would a remote viewer be used for?
McMoneagle gives a few examples.
Okay.
He talks about how remote viewing was used to locate missing persons.
Wow.
Gather intelligence on enemy activities, even assess the structural integrity of buildings.
Hold on, assessing buildings.
Yeah.
So you're saying they could potentially see if a bridge was about to collapse or a building had hidden flaws.
That's right.
That's both fascinating and a little bit terrifying.
That's the double-edged sword of any powerful tool, right?
I guess so.
It depends on who's wielding it and for what purpose.
True.
But what's interesting is that McMoneagle doesn't shy away from those potential dangers.
Oh, so he talks about the ethical considerations.
He dedicates a whole section of the book to the ethics of remote viewing.
Okay.
Emphasizing that it's not just about what you can do, but what you should do.
I see.
He's very clear that respect for privacy is paramount.
So no psychic peeking into your neighbor's windows or reading people's minds without their permission.
Exactly.
Got it.
He lays down some pretty strict guidelines, arguing that just because you have the ability to access information doesn't give you the right to use it indiscriminately.
That makes sense. It's like having a key to every house in the city. Just because you could walk into any home doesn't mean you should.
That's a great way to put it.
Right.
He emphasizes that responsible remote viewing is about using this ability for good, whether it's helping others, seeking truth, or understanding the world in a deeper way.
It sounds like McMoneagle takes the ethical side of this very seriously.
Oh, he does.
It's not just some fun parlor trick for him.
No, not at all.
It's a powerful ability that requires responsibility and careful consideration.
Absolutely.
This is definitely more complex and nuanced than I ever imagined.
It is.
All right, I'm ready to delve deeper.
Great.
What other mind-bending insights does McMoneagle have in store for us?
Oh, there are plenty more.
As we continue this deep dive into remote viewing secrets.
Let's do it.
Okay, so we've talked about the mental game, the training, the protocols, even the ethical considerations of remote viewing.
Right.
It's a lot to wrap your head around.
It is.
But let's get back to the how for a moment.
Okay.
How do these viewers actually do it? Is there a specific technique, or is it more of an intuitive thing?
That's where McMoneagle makes an interesting distinction.
Okay.
Between protocols and methodologies.
I see.
He says the protocol is like the framework.
Right.
The rules of the game to ensure everything is done scientifically.
Okay.
But the methodology
Yeah.
is how the viewer actually accesses the information.
Right.
And that can vary from person to person.
So kind of like different martial arts styles. They all have the same underlying principles.
Right.
But the techniques can look very different.
Yes, some viewers might use visualization techniques.
Okay.
Others might rely more on feelings or even sounds.
Interesting.
And here's the surprising part.
What's that?
McMoneagle says Even things like tarot card readings or channeling can be incorporated into a remote viewing session.
Wow.
As long as they're done within that rigorous protocol.
So it's not about the specific tool you use, but about how you use it.
Precisely. It's about creating the right conditions for psychic functioning to occur.
Right.
Regardless of the specific method.
It makes you wonder if there are hidden psychic talents lurking within all of us.
Well, I think so.
Just waiting to be unlocked with the right training.
McMoneagle believes there is.
He does.
He challenges the idea that only a select few can remote view.
Right.
Suggesting that most people have some latent ability.
Okay. But if that's true, wouldn't we have a lot more psychic spies running around?
He makes a distinction between having the ability and mastering it.
Okay.
Think about it this way. Most people can sing in the shower.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean they're ready for a concert at the Met.
True.
Remote viewing is the same. It takes dedicated training to hone that raw talent into a reliable skill.
So there's a difference between being able to pick up on a few vague impressions and consistently providing detailed, accurate information.
Exactly. And even the most skilled viewers have to contend with consistency. McMoneagle says it's an ongoing process of learning, refining and pushing the boundaries of what's possible.
So it's a journey, not a destination.
I like that.
I like that too. It makes me think of something else McMoneagle mentions.
What's that?
The importance of documenting everything.
Yes.
Why is that so crucial? Well, is it just for research purposes?
Documentation serves a few purposes.
Okay.
From a scientific standpoint, it's essential for tracking progress, identifying patterns, and understanding how this ability works.
Makes sense.
But it also has a huge ethical component.
Oh, right. We talked about the potential for misuse.
Exactly, like making sure someone isn't using remote viewing to spy on people. Or gain an unfair advantage. By creating a transparent record of what was viewed when and under what conditions, you create a system of accountability.
Okay.
It's about ensuring that remote viewing is used responsibly and ethically.
It's like a checks and balances system for psychic powers.
I like that.
I can see why that would be important.
Right.
Speaking of checks and balances, McMoneagle talks a lot about security.
He does.
Which makes this whole thing feel a little bit like a spy thriller.
Right.
What kind of security measures are we talking about here?
When you're dealing with sensitive information, whether for research or real-world applications, protecting that information is paramount.
Right.
McMoneagle outlines procedures for safeguarding records.
Okay.
Using coded identification systems. Even encrypting digital data.
Wow. So it's serious business.
It's about protecting the information itself and the people involved.
So it's not just about the remote viewing itself.
Right.
It's about creating a whole secure ecosystem around it.
Exactly. It's about establishing a culture of responsibility and integrity.
Right.
And this all ties into another important topic McMoneagle addresses.
What's that?
Debunking those common myths about remote viewing.
Okay, let's bust some myths. I think we all have this preconceived notion of what a psychic is supposed to be like, thanks to Hollywood.
Yeah, one of the biggest misconceptions McMoneagle tackles is the idea that remote viewing is always precise and accurate.
Right.
He stresses that even the best viewers struggle with consistency.
Okay.
It's not like in the movies where psychics always know exactly what's going to happen.
So no predicting lottery numbers with 100% accuracy?
He says it's more like piecing together a puzzle.
Okay.
Where you have to filter out the noise, recognize patterns, and be aware of that bleed through from different time periods.
Right, like accidentally picking up static from another station.
Exactly. It's more of an art than an exact science.
That makes a lot of sense. It's like any skill, there's always room for improvement and refinement.
Right.
Speaking of refinement, earlier we talked about the study that linked remote viewing accuracy to local sidereal time.
Yes.
Does McMoneagle address that connection at all?
While he doesn't specifically mention that study, he does acknowledge the potential influence of external factors on remote viewing.
Interesting.
He even suggests there might be a connection between human consciousness and the cosmos.
So the stars' time and the depths of our minds might all be intertwined in ways we're only beginning to understand?
That's the beauty of exploring these uncharted territories.
Yeah.
With each discovery, we open ourselves up to new possibilities.
Right.
And new ways of understanding our place in the universe.
It's like peeling back layers of an onion and realizing there's always another layer beneath.
I like that.
So we've covered the science, the training, the ethics, even the cosmic connection.
We have.
What else has McMoneagle tucked away in his psychic toolkit?
One of the techniques he describes is using dowsing and scrying as tools to enhance remote viewing.
Wait, so you're telling me I could build my own psychic tools to unlock hidden knowledge?
He even gives instructions on how to make these tools yourself.
Really?
Using everyday materials.
That's incredibly intriguing.
Yeah.
Tell me more about how these techniques work and what they can reveal.
McMoneagle explains that dowsing, using tools like pendulums, can tap into your subconscious to answer questions or locate objects.
So it's like a direct line to that hidden reservoir of knowledge within us.
Exactly. And scrying, which often involves gazing into a reflective surface, is a technique used to access visions and insights.
Oh, interesting.
McMoneagle explains how to create a simple scrying setup.
Okay.
But he emphasizes that it's not about taking those visions literally.
So it's not like watching a movie screen in your mind.
No.
What does he mean by not taking it literally?
He says the subconscious often communicates through symbolism and metaphors.
Okay.
You might see images or symbols that represent something else entirely.
Interesting.
It's like learning to decipher the language of your dreams.
That makes sense. It's like a whole new way of perceiving and understanding information.
Exactly. And that's what makes remote viewing so fascinating.
Yeah.
It pushes us to expand our awareness, to challenge our assumptions, and to explore the uncharted territories of human potential.
It's a journey that requires both a curious mind and a healthy dose of skepticism.
Absolutely. As with any exploration into the unknown, discernment is key.
This deep dive has certainly taken us down some intriguing rabbit holes.
It has.
We've explored the mechanics of remote viewing, the training, the ethical considerations, the tools, even the potential influence of the cosmos.
We have.
What other mind-bending insights does McMoneagle have in store for us as we continue exploring remote viewing secrets?
One of the most fascinating observations McMoneagle shares is about the differences he's noticed between men and women in their approach to remote viewing.
Now, that's something I'm really curious about. Tell me more about what he's discovered.
He emphasizes that these aren't differences in ability or accuracy, but rather in technique and style.
Interesting.
He's observed that men tend to be more analytical and structured in their approach.
Right.
Focusing on gathering specific details and organizing the information logically.
That sounds about right. What about women? How do they tend to approach remote viewing?
He's found that women often tap into their intuition and emotions more readily.
Okay.
They might be more sensitive to the energy of a target.
Yeah.
Or more easily access those deeper symbolic layers of information.
That's fascinating. It aligns with the idea that women are often more in touch with their emotions and intuition.
Precisely. And McMoneagle highlights that these differences can be complementary.
Okay.
Each approach brings unique strengths to the table.
So a team of remote viewers with a mix of men and women might be able to access a wider range of insights.
Exactly. It's about leveraging the diversity of perspectives and approaches to create a more holistic understanding of the target.
This makes me wonder if there are other hidden factors that might influence remote viewing abilities.
It's possible.
Things we haven't even considered yet.
That's the beauty of this field.
Yeah.
It's full of unanswered questions and unexplored frontiers.
Absolutely. But let's bring it back to something more practical for a moment. McMoneagle dedicates a whole chapter to training and learning.
He does.
I'm curious what insights he shares for those who are just starting out on this path.
Me too.
Yeah, let's talk about training.
Right.
If someone is listening to this and thinking, wow, I want to try this remote viewing thing, where should they even begin?
McMoneagle is a big advocate for a structured approach.
Okay.
Starting with the basics and gradually building upon those foundational skills.
So what are those foundational skills for a budding remote viewer?
He emphasizes the importance of quieting the mind.
Right.
Learning to focus your attention and developing those intuitive muscles.
So it's not about suddenly turning on a psychic switch.
No.
It's a gradual process.
Exactly. And McMoneagle highlights the importance of finding a qualified instructor or mentor.
Oh, okay.
Especially in the early stages.
So having a trusted guide can make all the difference.
Absolutely. A good instructor can provide personalized feedback.
Yeah.
Help you navigate those initial hurdles and ensure you're developing those foundational skills correctly.
That makes a lot of sense. So what are some of the specific techniques or exercises McMoneagle recommends for beginners?
Okay.
What are those baby steps on the path to becoming a remote viewer?
He starts with simple exercises to enhance focus and attention.
Okay.
One technique he describes is practicing ideograms.
Ideograms.
Which are essentially abstract symbols that represent different aspects of a target.
Interesting.
It's almost like learning a new visual language to communicate with your subconscious.
So it's about tapping into that creative right brain thinking.
Exactly. And he encourages people to practice drawing and interpreting these ideograms to strengthen those intuitive skills.
Right.
But he stresses that these aren't just for beginners.
Oh.
Even experienced viewers can benefit from going back to these basics to keep their skills sharp.
It's like a musician practicing their scales no matter how advanced they become.
Yes.
So once you've mastered those foundational skills,
right,
what's the next step in the training process?
McMoneagle describes a progression of increasingly complex exercises.
Okay.
Designed to challenge your perception and expand your abilities.
Right.
He introduces concepts like analytical overlay.
Analytical overlay.
Where you learn to distinguish between your own assumptions and the actual information you're receiving from the target.
So it's like developing that critical thinking filter to separate the wheat from the chaff.
Exactly. He also gives techniques for overcoming common pitfalls.
Okay,
like
what?
Like front-loading.
Front-loading.
Where you might unconsciously bias your perceptions based on pre-existing knowledge about the target.
That makes me think about the importance of those double-blind protocols we discussed earlier.
Yeah.
It's all about minimizing bias as much as possible.
Precisely. And as viewers progress, they move on to more challenging targets.
Okay, like what?
Like viewing events from the past or even potential future scenarios.
Okay, now we're getting into some really mind-bending territory.
Right.
What kind of guidance does McMoneagle offer for tackling those more advanced levels?
He emphasizes that viewing the past or future requires a heightened level of discernment.
Okay.
Because of that potential for bleed-through from neighboring time periods.
Right, like accidentally picking up static from another station.
Exactly. He gives techniques for minimizing this interference.
Okay.
Such as focusing on specific sensory details or anchoring your awareness to a specific point in time.
So it's about learning to fine-tune your psychic receiver.
Exactly. And as viewers become more proficient, they can explore even more complex and nuanced aspects.
Okay, like what?
Like discerning the emotions of individuals at a target location, or even potentially influencing events.
Now that's where we enter some serious ethical territory.
You're absolutely right. And McMoneagle doesn't shy away from those implications.
He doesn't?
He repeatedly stresses the importance of using these abilities responsibly.
Right.
And adhering to a strict code of ethics, especially when it comes to influencing events or potentially invading someone's privacy.
It's a reminder that this isn't just a game. It's a powerful tool that comes with great responsibility.
Precisely. And as we continue exploring remote viewing secrets, we'll delve even deeper into those ethical considerations and the broader implications of this extraordinary ability.
I'm ready for the next level of this deep dive. What other secrets and insights does McMoneagle have waiting for us?
Well, one of the most intriguing parts of the book
Yeah.
is where McMoneagle dives into the relationship between remote viewing and time.
Okay, that definitely piques my curiosity. Tell me more about his perspective on time.
He suggests that through remote viewing, we can access information from different points in time.
Right.
Not as a series of fixed events,
Okay.
but as coexisting possibilities within a larger field of consciousness.
So instead of time being a straight line, it's more like a web or a multi-dimensional tapestry.
That's a great way to put it. He describes how viewers might perceive events from the past or future, not as static snapshots, but as dynamic, fluid experiences.
So could you potentially experience historical events as if you were actually
there? That's what some viewers have reported. And McMoneagle believes this ability to perceive different time periods isn't just for a select few.
Right.
He thinks anyone can develop this capacity with the right training.
Whoa, that challenges everything we think we know about time and perception.
Exactly. And he even suggests that through remote viewing, we might be able to subtly influence events in the past or future.
That raises some serious ethical questions.
He agrees, and McMoneagle cautions against any attempts to manipulate or interfere with the natural flow of events.
Okay.
He says our understanding of time is still very limited.
Right.
And any actions taken in the past or future could have unforeseen consequences.
It's a reminder that we're dealing with forces we don't fully comprehend.
Yeah.
And we need to be incredibly careful when exploring these uncharted territories.
Precisely. It's about approaching these abilities with humility and respect.
Right.
Recognizing that we're just beginning to scratch the surface of what's possible.
This deep dive has certainly taken us on a wild ride. We've explored the mechanics of remote viewing, the training, the documentation, the security, even the mind-bending implications of time and consciousness.
We have.
And as we continue through remote viewing secrets, we'll uncover even more mysteries surrounding this incredible ability.
I can't wait.
I can't wait to see what other revelations await us. But before we wrap up this part of our exploration, I want to leave our listeners with a question to ponder.
All right.
If we can access information from different points in time, does that mean our past, present, and future are already written? Or do we have the power to shape our own destiny?
That's a profound question.
It is.
And one that has been debated by philosophers and scientists for centuries.
Yeah.
Perhaps remote viewing offers a new lens through which to explore this age-old mystery.
Well, folks, there you have it. Another layer of our deep dive into the world of remote viewing.
Right.
We hope this has sparked your curiosity and inspired you to explore the boundaries of what's possible.
Remember, the journey of discovery is often the most rewarding part.
Until next time, keep those minds open and keep questioning everything. All right, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive into remote viewing secrets.
Yeah.
From the basics of what it is to the mind-blowing implications of time and consciousness.
Absolutely.
But there's one more crucial piece we need to discuss.
You're talking about the ethical dimension, right?
Exactly. It's one thing to talk about psychic abilities and tapping into hidden knowledge.
Yeah.
What about the responsibility that comes with that power? That's something McMoneagle really emphasizes in the book.
He's very clear that remote viewing, like any powerful tool, needs a strong ethical framework.
I see.
It's not enough to just say, don't be evil.
Right.
He actually lays out specific guidelines to prevent misuse and ensure this ability is used responsibly.
So what are some of those guidelines? What are the do's and don'ts of the remote viewing world?
One of the biggest things he stresses is respect for privacy. He says using remote viewing to intrude on someone's personal life without their consent is a huge no-no.
So no psychic peeking into your neighbor's windows or reading people's minds just for kicks?
He draws a very clear line there. Just because you have the ability to access information doesn't mean you have the right to use it however you want.
It's like having a master key that can unlock any door.
Right.
Just because you could walk into anyone's house doesn't mean you should.
That's a great analogy. And he goes beyond just respecting physical boundaries.
Okay.
He also cautions against using remote viewing for personal gain or manipulating situations to your advantage.
So no rigging the lottery or spying on your business competitors?
He argues that those kinds of actions go against the very spirit of remote viewing.
Right.
It undermines the integrity of the practice and could lead to unintended consequences.
It's like using a superpower for evil. It corrupts the ability itself.
Exactly. He emphasizes that responsible remote viewing is about seeking truth, understanding and potentially helping others, not about personal gain or power.
That brings up an interesting question.
What's that?
What about using remote viewing for things like crime investigation or finding missing persons? Would that be considered ethical?
It's a complex issue.
Yeah.
And McMoneagle acknowledges the potential benefits of using remote viewing in those contexts.
Okay.
However, he's very cautious about it.
What are some of his concerns?
He stresses that remote viewing shouldn't be the sole basis for any decisions or actions.
Right.
Especially in legal matters.
I see.
Any insights gained through remote viewing need to be corroborated with traditional investigative methods.
So it's more of a supplemental tool, not a replacement for good old-fashioned detective work.
Exactly. He also emphasizes the importance of working within the legal framework.
Okay.
Getting proper authorization before conducting any kind of investigation.
Right.
And always respecting the rights of everyone involved.
It sounds like navigating the ethical terrain of remote viewing is a delicate balancing act.
It definitely is. It's about weighing potential benefits against potential risks and always erring on the side of caution and ethical responsibility. It's a new frontier.
Right.
And we're still figuring out the rules of the road.
That makes sense. It's like with any emerging technology or ability.
Right.
We have to think carefully about the implications and establish clear guidelines to prevent misuse.
And McMoneagle doesn't just lay out those guidelines.
Oh.
He also pushes readers to consider the bigger philosophical questions raised by remote viewing.
Okay, let's get philosophical. What kind of questions are we talking about here?
He asks things like, what is the nature of consciousness?
Okay.
How are we all interconnected? What is the true nature of reality?
Those are some deep questions. I'm not sure I have the answers.
That's okay. He doesn't claim to have all the answers either.
Right.
He encourages us to embrace the mystery, question our assumptions.
Yeah.
And be open to the possibility that our current understanding of the world might be very limited.
So remote viewing isn't just about psychic abilities, it's about expanding our awareness and challenging the very way we see the world.
Exactly. And he reminds us to maintain a healthy dose of skepticism.
Right.
To not blindly accept everything we perceive, but to critically evaluate the information and seek corroboration whenever possible.
It's about finding that balance between open-mindedness and critical thinking.
You got it. And as we wrap up this deep dive into remote viewing secrets,
okay,
McMoneagle leaves us with one final thought-provoking question.
Okay, lay it on me. What's the question that's going to keep me pondering all week?
He asks if we can access information from different points in time.
Yeah.
Does that mean our past, present, and future are already predetermined? Or do we have the power to shape our own destiny?
Whoa, that's a big one. It makes you question the very nature of free will.
Exactly. And McMoneagle doesn't offer any easy answers.
Of course not.
He leaves it to us to grapple with that question.
Right.
To explore the possibilities. And to keep searching for our own truth, even if it leads us down unexpected paths.
Well, folks, there you have it. Our deep dive into the world of remote viewing, guided by Joseph McMoneagle's Remote Viewing Secrets, has come to an end.
It has.
We've explored the mechanics, the training, the ethics, the mind-bending implications, and even the profound philosophical questions this ability raises.
Yeah.
It's been quite a journey.
It has.
And we hope it sparked your curiosity and inspired you to learn more about this fascinating field.
I hope so.
Remember, this is just the beginning. There's a whole universe of possibilities waiting to be explored.
So true.
So keep those minds open, keep asking questions, and keep searching for knowledge.
Until next time, keep diving deep.
And thanks for joining us on the Deep Dive.